Hey everyone, Nicole here once again, and I'm back to answer one of your questions. Now, first I'll point out that I'm in my lovely brand new padded sound studio here. We just had this installed in our house a couple weeks ago, so we'll see where this takes all of my recordings and photography. I'm really excited about it. It gives me a really great place to create more content for all of you. But let's get to the question here. The question is, when I find myself with an open day and no particular subject to shoot, where do I go or where do I inspire inspiration? And I wanted to share with you kind of some of the ways that I kind of process things and how I decide what I want to photograph. I'll preface this by saying I don't have clients, so I don't have people handing me assignments and things that I need to photograph on a daily basis. Most of the work that I create is for the educational content that I market or that I sell, or I write books and do video tutorials. So I'm pretty much photographing things to use in that context. So I get to photograph kind of whatever I want. But with that said, I still do have things that I need to make sure that I'm covering. I still obviously need to make sure that I'm out photographing things fairly regularly so I can keep up my library of content and have new and fresh images to share, just because that's what I do. I got to keep creating. But some of the things that I've found over time that have helped me are the things that I'm going to share here with you. First of all, and this is probably the biggest one for me because it's kind of what helped get me into the mindset of photographing much more, was I needed to find a focus. I was creating with a film camera for many years, and then I got a digital camera, and I wanted to learn more, but I didn't exactly know how to proceed. I was not doing photography full time, obviously. I was still in the military, and I needed some type of focus, some way to kind of get me narrowed in with photography and just learn it and grow from there. So I found my focus, and that focus at the time was stock photography. If you follow any of my blogs, you'll know that I'm kind of taking a step back from some of that, from the iStock part of that. I've just recently canceled my exclusivity on that home front. I'm still very much into photography, and I may pursue other options for my stock photography, so that's kind of beside the point. But that really helped me make a really big leap with my photography because I found a focus and I found a way to kind of hone in my creativity and give me something to work towards. So that's probably my first and number one thing, is find some way to focus with your efforts and what you want to do, basically. And second is communities. And they kind of, for me, those kind of went hand in hand, was the community aspect. When you find a group of people that you can share with, or that you can be encouraged by or inspired by, or inspire and encourage those people, then it's really going to make you want to create something for that group. A lot of people are at Google Plus, actually, is a really good example where a really big community of photographers have kind of come together. I met a lot of my friends. I met my husband on Google Plus. He's a photographer, Brian Matiash. There are so many communities out there. There are local communities, online communities, and they're just forums and photo walking groups. It's a really great way to kind of connect with other people and give you some ideas, or maybe challenge yourself to do things you may not have ever thought of doing before. Or maybe just a reason to get out and shoot, just to hang out with other people and do it at the same time. Another one is contests and challenges. Those are just a good way to kind of make you think differently. If you, let's say, had a macro challenge, then you might have to kind of branch outside of what you're used to photographing and try some macro. And that'll kind of, you never know where things like that are going to take you. I just, on a whim, decided to start doing food photography with my stock portfolio, and it very quickly grew, and now I have books and classes on food photography because I just discovered randomly that I challenged myself, and that's, it just grew from there because I just wanted to try it. Another way that I inspire myself is, let's say I'm just sitting at home and I want to photograph food. It's just a really great example because I do a lot of that. But sometimes trying to decide what to photograph, or just being inspired to even do it in the first place, is really challenging. And so what I do, I save a lot of notes, and this is kind of all beforehand. I use Pinterest. I search for things. When I find things, I throw them on a inspirational Pinterest board, and I can go ahead and share that stuff with you here. I call it my inspiration food photography and styling board. So that way I can go back and remind myself, like let's say right now I want to photograph food. So I'll go to my Pinterest board and I'll look and see what I've pinned and what I've found in the past that it had inspired me at the time. And now that I'm ready to actually create photos, I can kind of pull from that inspiration and see if there's something that really kind of sparks in my head and, allows me to go and actually create the photograph. I also do things like I read magazines, like digital magazines, and I'll save clippings and I'll put them in Evernote. And that's another good way to kind of look back and see the things that had inspired me in the past. And then I can pull from that right now and the moment that I actually want to create the photograph. And lastly, and this is actually a really big part of my creative process, is I try to step away from photography in pretty good chunks of time. A few days a week. I try to stay away from the computer. Of course, I always have my phone with me, so I'm always doing something, and I'm always taking pictures with my phone. But I'll spend time in my pottery studio, I started doing that for my food photography, and it kind of has a little life of its own now. I just do it purely for fun and purely for hobby, but it's a way to step away from photography and inspire me in other directions. And I'm trying to find and fit into communities that are outside of photography to try and grow in other areas, because it always, for me, finds a way back to photography. I also do things like I knit. I like to just walk my dog. I don't always take my camera with me everywhere I go. Of course, I have my phone with me anytime I'm out, but I try to not take it too seriously a lot of the times. But yeah, so those are just some ways that I personally have inspired myself and still inspire myself to create photographs on a regular basis. I hope that helps for you guys. I hope you all have a great holiday week, and I'll catch up with you later.